Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Harrogate series. Harrogate is a large borough, one of the 11 districts of North Yorkshire. It's got 139 civil parishes. Which one are we in this episode? Welcome back to Harrogate again, everybody. Now today I brought you to a very small place. If you look at the map, you won't see much in the way of a village here. And the reason for that is because the village that does exist has literally just a handful of houses and not much else. However, this one is a bit of a tourist attraction because between April and October every year, at weekends and at bank holidays, Plumpton Rocks is open for people to walk around and explore. Now, unfortunately, it's March, which means it's not going to be open, but I still might be able to see some of that landmark. You'll find it in the parish of, not Plumpton, but Plompton. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Plumpton, Plum Tree Farmstead. Alright people, this week in Harrogate we're in the parish of Plompton, but that's just one name for it. Through time, Plompton has been variously spelt and pronounced, and that's why some of you Harrogate natives might know this as Plumpton instead. The Plumpton name is still very much in use thanks to the main attraction in these parts, the gorgeous Plumpton Rocks, described on its very own website as heaven on earth. Aside from the rocks, landmarks in Plumpton are quite sparse. Located just to the south of the border with the Harrogate unparished area and northeast of the A661, Plumpton was another estate village, this one centred on an 18th century hall designed by the York architect John Carr. That still stands, as does its equally impressive stable block. It's the standout feature here from an architectural standpoint. In terms of housing, Plumpton has very little. There's one main cluster, but most is inaccessible to the public. Plumpton's main claim to fame would be as the birthplace of John Hebden in 1712. Little is known of his life, but he was orphaned when he was young and went on to be a very well-renowned composer. So in short, and short is the most appropriate word here, that's Plumpton. Let's get the boots on and see what it's like to walk around. We begin on the A661, close to the lane that leads to Plompton village. At the junction, a sign points you in the direction of the landmark most people know in these parts, Plumpton Rocks. With it being March here, that was closed on this visit. It opens from April until October at weekends and bank holidays. No matter, there's more to the place than that. Here's a parish notice board for a start. That's Plompton done, no matter how small it may be. Housing-wise, there ain't much here, but there are still many listed buildings. These gate lodges are 2 of the 19 in total. Here's a handy map which shows you where all the houses are in Plompton. This is ideal for the likes of delivery drivers and such, seeing as all the properties are named rather than numbered. Essentially, there are 2 roads here, one between the gate lodges which leads to Plumpton Hall, and the other heads towards the small cluster of houses that make up the main part of the hamlet. The main cluster is known as Plompton Square. Among the buildings there did appear to be an old chapel-like structure, but beyond this point it's private, so I couldn't really see as a result. Now, owing to the fact that that's a private road beyond the point where I've just been, we can't see any more of Plumpton village. There are a handful of houses, like I said, but nothing I can do about that. However, I can walk up here. This is perfectly legal, because even though we can't get to Plumpton Rocks because it's closed, this road that runs between the two lodges is a public bridleway. So we can follow this for a while. Let's see where it goes. Immediately to the left as you go between the lodges is the car park for Plumpton Rocks, and the attraction itself is hiding away behind those trees. Plumpton Rocks is a man-made lake and surrounding pleasure garden, and it forms part of the grounds of Plumpton Hall. The gardens were designed by Daniel Lascelles, who bought the estate in 1749 from the Plumpton family. They had owned the estate since the time of William the Conqueror. Later, it then became part of the much larger Harewood estate until the 1950s, when the Plumpton family reacquired it. Standing at the centre of the estate since the time of Daniel Lascelles is the magnificent Plumpton Hall and its associated buildings. It's Grade 2 listed and was built in 1760 to replace the original manor house that the Plumpton family lived in. It was designed by the York architect John Carr. It's a two-storey building made of ashlar, and it's had several additions and alterations over the years. Lascelles didn't live here long enough to see the house completed. It's presumed he ran out of money. In 1762 he moved away to Goldsborough Hall and building work ceased. Well, Plumpton is a very out-of-the-way place, isn't it? And I suppose most people that come here know it for Plumpton Rocks and not much else. I suppose even if we can't get into Plumpton Rocks, I am showing you parts of this which are accessible, publicly accessible, but not necessarily always seen. I'm still on a public bridleway here. Climbs a hill here. You can see there's beautiful scenery. There's no cars. There's no activity at all around here. You've basically got this part of Yorkshire to yourself. It's well worth a walk, you know, without going into Plumpton Rocks. I've got to tell you, it really is. Once beyond Plumpton Hall, the bridleway becomes a bit harder to follow. It falls down the side of a steepish bank before running into a track that leads from the stables to a minor, unnamed road. Here's a few facts to finish. Plumpton was mentioned in the Domesday Book as Plompton, and in the Middle Ages it was variously spelt. The name is from Old English, and it literally means plum tree farmstead. It was historically a township in the parish of Spofforth and became a separate civil parish in 1866. Today, it shares a parish council with Follyfoot. Well, we've made it back to the start. It was unconventional, but at least we did it. We're around the parish of Plompton, but of course we haven't talked about the biggest and most important landmark within these boundaries yet, have we? That would be Plumpton Rocks. Of course, I haven't talked about it because it's closed. Well, here's an extended special section today, which will tell you all about the place, when you can come and visit, and what to expect when you do. Plumpton Rocks, the man-made lake and pleasure garden created by Daniel Lascelles, is a major Harrogate tourist attraction. It's operated by the Plumpton family, and its current owner is Robert de Plumpton Hunter. The site is now generally spelt with a U, although the artist J.M.W. Turner referred to it as Plompton Rocks, in keeping with the modern spelling of the parish itself. More on him shortly. The 30-acre park provides seemingly endless opportunities to explore, with tranquil lakeside walks, dramatic millstone grit rock formations with names including Lion's Den, Lover's Leap and Needle's Eye. Lascelles designed the gardens before he hatched his plan for Plumpton Hall. He created them in the late 1750s and early 1760s against a backdrop of towering millstone grit rocks, naturally eroded by the wind. The lake was later extended by a dam built by John Carr. After 1784, the gardens became part of the Harewood estate, along with the rest of Plumpton. And that brings us back to Turner. In 1797 he was commissioned by Edward Lascelles, the first Earl of Harewood, to produce 2 paintings of the lake and rocks. These now hang at Harewood House. His works were his first ever commissioned landscape in oils, and he charged the Earl a little more than £32 for the pair. Ironically, because Turner became so successful as an artist, a few years later he could have easily charged more than 20 times that amount. The rocks have also been painted in the past by Thomas Gertin. Plumpton Rocks is featured on the silver screen. In 2016 it was used in the film Swallows and Amazons. Also in 2016, the lake, dam and woods underwent a major restoration. The site closed again in October 2019 to bring the dam up to a standard set by the Reservoirs Act of 1975. It reopened again after the COVID-19 pandemic in 2022. And that's it, folks. You can tick the parish of Plumpton off your lists. My final act was to follow the A661 north into Harrogate, and in doing so I passed a pub called the Kestrel. It's also within the parish boundaries, so I snuck it in at the end. Next week, we'll be seeing another grand haul. Join me there in 7 days' time. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.